Welcome to On the Couch with Dr. Diamond and Friends, where real conversations spark real change. Pull up a seat and get comfortable. You're in the right place. On the Couch is the space where Black and Brown communities come together to unpack the topics that shape our lives, our families, and our futures. Hosted by Dr. Diamond, alongside a powerful lineup of co-hosts, this show brings you honest, unfiltered, and deeply relevant conversations. From mental health and wellness to entrepreneurship and beyond, we cover a wide range of topics designed to stimulate your mind and spirit. The everyday realities we navigate. We're here to educate, empower, and elevate. Every episode is crafted to give you insight, inspiration, and the tools to move with intention. So settle in and take a breath. We're diving into the stories, strategies, and truths that matter. This is On the Couch, where we keep it real, keep it relevant, and keep it moving. Let's jump in.
Good morning, everyone. I am back. It's been a minute. Myself and some of my co-hosts, they'll be joining me today for this topic of, having a conversation about men in depression. But it's been a month and I've been off doing other things, some work, volunteer work, working with my granddaughter, doing some stuff with her, wanted to catch up with her and some things that she wanted to do. So I took some time off and took a break for a month. But we are back, and again, we're going to jump out here by having this conversation about men in depression. So I know at times, we've had other conversations about relationships, but even for the end of month of May, we do know in May there is a week of, mental health awareness. So it would only be fit on 5:30 that we again talk about mental health and go out of this month by talking about men in depression. So again, today we're going to talk about something too many do not talk about, is men carrying alone depression. Not the dramatic breakdowns people imagine, but a quiet suffering, the shutdown. The irritability, the exhaustion, the pressure to be strong, stoic, and silent. Now, this episode, we're going to be talking about men, how they feel overwhelmed, the difference in the languages when we think about men and women and how depression is actually demonstrated, and the space or the permission to say, I'm not okay. What is that like for men? Because again, what society have men, how men should be portrayed is, again, as these words stated, strong, stoic, and also not connecting with their feelings. At times they are groomed to be that way, especially in the Black and Brown community, not definitely showing that they have or going through depression, which can be really harmful because they're not having the opportunity to speak about it and go into therapy as they should. But I hope this episode will help men realize that you can say that I'm not okay. You can also identify when you see or go through some form of depression or someone else that is going through it. Because there are a lot of people that have, taken their lives, and men that have taken their lives because they have gone through a bout of depression or several stages of depression and never addressed it. So today is the day that we begin to talk about it and get knowledge about it. So I would hope that you pass on this knowledge as we talk about this today. And, periodically, I'll be looking down, going into my notes so I can give you the most factual information that I can, and also drop a comment. Let me know that you're here. If you have any questions, I will be sure to answer some questions that you have about men in depression. So let's talk about this. Why men struggle to talk about depression? Why do they? So men, based on society, we see them as the provider, the protector, the problem solver, not people with emotional needs. So we know that's not true because they're human beings. Just like women are, we are human. We shouldn't have to walk around feeling that we can't have moments where we would actually crack, because we do have those moments. And I do want to encourage that when that happens, to acknowledge that. But as we go further into this discussion, this will be reiterated about why to and when to say something. Depression in men often look different. So this is what you will see: irritability, you'll see anger, you will also see withdrawal, overworking, shutting down. So this is, again, demonstrating behaviors that will suppress or hide what they're actually going through, which is known as depression. Many men fear being seen as weak, dramatic, or not man enough. Again, these are typical feedback that society will give to men if they are saying, hey, I'm sad, I'm overly sad, I don't even know why I'm feeling this way. And again, there is not going to be verbalized the way that women will do it, but men will demonstrate it through, again, irritability, anger, withdrawal, overworking, or shutting down completely. Cultural layers. So let's look at that. Black and brown men carry generational trauma, racism, economic pressure, and expectations of hyper strength. This is true. Again, going back to how we raise young Black men, young Black women, young Hispanic men, young Hispanic women. When we start out, we are groomed to be stronger because it's the way society views us as a whole. Trauma. A lot of us experience different traumas in different ways. It could be trauma within the home. It could be trauma going out into the community. And as we're talking about going into the community and trauma, it could be just basic things of seeing someone being harmed by another person, or they're being harmed by another person. Exposed to death, exposed to, things that happen in school, like bullying, so being mistreated by a teacher, different things like that. So as we're growing up, we're being taught to be stronger, okay? Because the way society can view us. And when we're talking about society, there are some, white people in society that have been groomed as well to look at us as beneath them. That we're inferior and not superior. Also, we are not intelligent. So we are taught to be stronger, excel more, work more, don't show weakness. These things are actually ingrained in us, and we're taught to carry ourselves as such. However, there are consequences to carrying ourselves in this manner. And again, as I stated, generational trauma, racism, economic pressure, and expectations of hyper strength. Many were raised by men who never model emotional expression. This is true as well. If you have never seen someone express, especially a man, express certain behaviors like sadness, but easy to express anger, not crying in front of you, then you won't see that from that person. And if it's another male raising another male, he's not going to let him cry or say, don't cry. And some moms do it too. Tell their sons, you're not supposed to cry. Do not cry. Suck it up. Don't show this expression. Don't show that you're sad. But again, that's a consequence to raising a son to not be able to show his expressions, such as being sad. So this is why when it comes out, as I stated before, with the withdrawal, the overworking, the pressures, the irritability, the anger, all of those is what actually happens. That's the consequence to teaching a young male to suppress that type of emotion, which is sadness. Men aren't taught to express sadness, they're taught to hide it. This is true. Depression in men often look like anger, not tears. That is true. Silence is not strength, it's survival mode. that is also true as well. These facts are true because we see it demonstrated on a day-to-day basis. By generation, we pass this down from one generation to the next. And I'm talking about the male in the families. They usually pass it from one man to the next young man. They also do not demonstrate the behaviors as I just stated, the tears and the sadness. So if it is not demonstrated, then it will not be repeated. What will be repeated is the demonstration of anger, demonstration of how to handle someone if it appears to be a violation of you or a disrespect. So that this behavior of protection comes out or anger comes out. So those are what are normally displayed versus what we're talking about today, which is how to shed tears when you're upset or say when you're not okay. So again, what does depression actually look like in men? So irritability or short fuse, just irritable, short fuse, don't have a moment for anyone, choose not to have a moment for anyone, very irritable and don't want to talk about things even if you're asking, hey, how are you doing? Short fuse, what are you asking me for? Why are you asking? Why are you in my business? It turns to that. Emotional numbness, just numb to the emotion. Overworking or staying busy to avoid your feelings. So just not approaching the feelings because you just don't want to face them. Withdrawing from family. I mean, really falling back from your family because you don't want them to see that you are sad. Losing interest in sex or intimacy. Feeling like a burden. So you're feeling like a burden to others. Physical symptoms, headaches, fatigue, body tension. All of those things come up. This is how you can identify what you're going through. Increased drinking, smoking, or risk taking. This is where you are. This is what you see. This is how you're starting to display. What does that look like? And I'm fine when he's clearly not fine. So you're knowing that you're not, but you don't want to face that. So you would prefer, hey, I'm going to hide it. I'm not going to say anything. I don't need anyone knowing that I'm going through this. And it could be also shame and embarrassment because you don't want someone else seeing you as weak because you're demonstrating a behavior that is normal, sadness. So a lot of men don't say I'm depressed. They say I'm tired. When a man shuts down, it's often because he doesn't feel safe opening up. So when do we give him that space that he can feel safe to open up to talk to you? So what does that mean? That means, ladies, if there is a man in your life that's actually going through some form of depression, we want to give them that space where we open up or help them open up by giving them a space where they can fall. And what does that mean? Where they can emotionally purge and talk to you and know that they can be safe by expressing themselves without being judged or being told that, oh, that's not what men's supposed to do. So we have to just be cognizant of what we say, how we say it, and show support when needed. So we would want the same for us. So in this section, I want to talk about why women often misread men's depression. And this is important, ladies. We need to listen up about this because we have men in our lives, and I'm talking about from uncles, fathers to sons, young men that we adopt in our lives, and these things can come up for them. And when you're not recognizing it, then there is where, again, you're not giving them that platform when they can really express themselves and say, hey, I'm going through something. So here are some tips for us. Women may interpret withdrawal or disinterest, not distress. Men often communicate pain through behavior, not words. Many men don't know how to ask for help. They hope someone notices. And then depression can make men appear cold, distant, or angry. So remember these, okay? I'm going to repeat these one more time. Women often interpret withdrawal or disinterest, not distress. Men often communicate pain through behavior, not words. Many men don't know how to ask for help. They hope someone notices. And depression can make men appear cold, distant, and angry. He's not cold, he's overwhelmed. He's not distant, he's drowning. This is what is actually happening. Now, how do we show our men support who may be depressed? Okay, create emotional safety. You don't have to have the answer. I just want to understand what you're carrying. So that means conversation, but you have to make room for that. So, how do you do that? How do you do that is just giving a listening ear. And when he's expressing himself, it doesn't mean he needs a response to it. So that means, why do you think it's necessary to give an answer? Not necessarily. What you can do, though, is again, have that listening ear, encourage the expression. And encouraging means to, hey, I'm here for you. If you want to ask me something, you can, but I'm going to be here to walk you through what you're feeling, and you just be there. Listen, listen, listen. No response, just listening. Listening means there's no judgment there. It's just active listening. You might hear dead space. If that happens, it's not really a time for you to even ask a question. It just may be that time where that space needs to be quiet for a minute. And then he may talk again. And, once he may be finished, he may get up and walk away and not say anything else after that. It's not personal. It's just letting you know I have that moment to express myself, and you're allowing me to do that. And I'm comfortable with doing that with you. And it may not be a thank you at that moment, but you're providing that space for him to express himself without having to necessarily give a response. If you are going to ask questions, ask open-ended questions. This helps dialogue to happen because you're going back and forth. How's your heart? What's been weighing on you lately? These are some questions you can ask. Tell me what you think may have triggered the way you're feeling right now. Is there something that occurred that you want to talk about? So we can have this conversation, and then you and I can, work together so we can go through it together. And you can say, hey, I'm going to be a cheerleader for you. I'm behind you. I'm going to be there for you because I know what you may be going through, or I may have seen this before. But again, ask open-ended questions because you want to have dialogue or encourage dialogue. Validate without fixing. So what does that mean? Ladies, we tend to like to fix. We don't have to in this situation because sometimes it doesn't call for us to fix it. It's just calling for us to listen. So that sounds heavy. I'm glad you told me. This is how you respond to that. So again, it's validate versus fixing. So that sounds heavy. I'm glad you told me. So this encourages more dialogue when you're saying this. The validation is going to encourage this person to continue to talk to you. Encourage small steps, not big leaps, small steps. So what do we mean by that? Small steps would be simply you saying, you know what, you took a step to actually say something about it. And I'm thankful that you chose me to be the person that you are expressing yourself to. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate you doing that. I'm here for you, and you do not have to take big leaps to express yourself. Feel like you have to talk about all of this in one time. To kind of help him walk through the steps very slowly, because he may start talking about everything that's bothering him and causing him to feel the way that he feels. But baby steps can also be, again, you just listening and, maybe helping him learn how to express himself. And what would that be? It would be helping him to identify what he's actually feeling, and that's sadness. Normalize therapy. Do that. How do you do that? So normalizing therapy. Therapy at times can be taboo to some people because they feel like, what is therapy going to be? Is this going to be somebody judging me, not listening to me, don't understand me? So there's going to be a lot of questions there. So explore that. Explore that by asking, have you ever been in therapy before? No, I haven't. Okay. Oh, okay. So you've never been in therapy before. However, it's very helpful. You find the right therapist, you'll be able to talk to this person like you're talking to a person every day that you talk to, either in person or by phone. Again, the right therapist. You have to seek the right therapist. So that means you can also ask a series of questions. So I'm encouraging you, men out there, to ask a series of questions. Ask the person, how often do you, or how many male clients have you actually worked with? What was that like for you to work with these male clients? Were you able to make a connection with them? And how can you assist me through what I'm going through right now? I am going through a sadness. I don't know what to do with it. Or he may say, I'm angry and I don't know what to do with it. People making me mad. They're pissing me off. They're doing this, that, and the other. Okay. So again, as a therapist, you can guide him once he comes to you. So asking these questions, men, I'm encouraging you to ask us these questions. You put us also through a series of questions to find out if you're comfortable with this person. Because again, you're trusting this person that you're going to begin to talk to about what you are going through on a day-to-day level. What am I going through? Why am I going through this? This is what's going through your head. And now you're going to actually seek professional help for someone to talk to about what you're going through. So you can identify. Someone needs to help you identify what you're actually going through. So you have to trust this professional with that. And remember, you're the expert of yourself. So it is not up to me to tell you who you are, what you've been through. I cannot do that. You're the only one that can tell me that. So that's when my open-end questions happen, and you and I will have dialogue. And I would hope that other professionals will be doing the same. That is dialogue to understand this person, identify what they're going through, help them identify what they're going through. And that's what makes a good therapist. The person is actually helping them walk through baby steps to get to their healing. Okay, remember him. He doesn't have to be the hero all the time. Well, not remember, but remind him. That goes for men and women, but now that we're talking about men, men do not have to show up as a hero all the time. You can say to him that everyone has a moment where they don't feel like they're the superhero. Everyone. What that does is it helps humanize him, make him feel like I am a human being versus a superhero that have to save everyone and never show anything. Okay, so when you think about a superhero, most people will go to the Man of Steel. Who do we consider the Man of Steel? Superman. But Superman also showed emotion. If everyone go back to a lot of his movies, you've seen him get mad. You've seen him get upset. You also feel that the loss of him separating himself from Lois Lane, he had a series of different type of emotions that you see him go through, which humanized Superman to us. So that's the same thing that we want to do, is if you look at it through that eye of this is a superhero, but the actual man that's sitting in front of you, he's not a superhero, he's a human being. So encourage him to express his feelings. Just be there. So what men can do for themselves. So men, what can you do for yourselves when you are going through something like depression? Name the feeling. Even if it's just, I'm not okay. That's fine. If you say, I'm not okay, I don't even know why I'm going through this. What am I going through? What is this? Who can help me identify what this is? Taking breaks without guilt. Yes, you can take a break. What does that mean? Check out. Check out from social media, check out from your phone, check out could be you taking a weekend for yourself and just go alone somewhere. Could be a day, 24 hours. It could be a few hours that you're doing something on your own to help yourself reset. So resetting would be you reclaiming who you are, finding out what's happening to you. So again, there's nothing wrong with taking a break, but don't feel guilty about it at all. Build a support circle. That's friends, mentors, therapists. That's important. When you have a circle around you, this circle are the people that you can touch. These are the people that you can reach out to. These are the people that you rely on when you are not feeling like yourself. These are the people again that you can go to and say, hey, you know what? I'm feeling these things. So you start listing out what you're feeling. But again, this is your immediate circle that you are beginning to talk to and have that courage to identify with them or help them understand what you're going through. Hey, Dean, how you doing this morning? Oh, nice of you to join me. And I know that you all are going to be periodically coming through. As I stated to a lot of our people that are watching us, that a lot of our co-hosts will be popping in. But if you didn't hear, I was talking about men in depression.
Okay.
And I was at the point of what men can do for themselves. And I started out by naming the feeling, even if it's just I'm not okay. Because I think at times men don't know. And again, you are a man and you can actually say if this is a true statement that you don't necessarily identify the feeling of depression. You may say, I'm just not okay. Have you ever been in that position where you just say, I'm not okay? You use those words versus I'm depressed.
In the beginning, yeah, I've done that before. When we're younger, we think we can take the world on and put everything on our shoulders and handle all issues without any problems or repercussions or anything like that. And all the while, the inside is crumbling. It comes out like, I'm okay, I'm all right, I got it, I can handle it. But then you realize you cannot handle it. Those who are strong enough are able to go and get some assistance for the issues that they are facing. The weakest man still tries to put Atlas on his shoulders, and then he falls down or he crumbles under the weight of that,
right.
Whatever it may be. And it may be something small, but once you get inside of your own mind, a magical and weird thing happens because that little thing becomes a big issue. And it gets bigger and it gets bigger. And if somebody asks a question, pride messes up a lot of us sometimes too, because we won't just be honest. Are you doing okay? No, I'm not. And it's okay to say, no, I'm not, but I don't want to talk about it right now. A lot of us don't do that. So in turn, we just had the mental health webinar for the Grand Lodge. We talked about the same thing about, feeling ashamed, feeling weak, feeling less than, because we assume that we can handle everything. Some people will say, pray it away. That don't always help. Well, you can pray till you pass out. That might not change something because it may be meant for you to go get that assistance and call on somebody else to help you through it, because none of us are invincible. They killed Superman. So if they kill him and he was supposed to be the biggest, baddest thing out there, why are we, the things that we need to maximize and really, get the assistance for? Some people don't want to take medication. Some people don't want to go to a psychologist, but to the world, they appear to be mentally deficient. And I mean sick, ignorant, crazy, insane, whatever words you want to put to it.
Right.
And they won't go get help. You know what I mean? So when we start changing um, what the assumption is and the stigma and getting that out of the way, then you can actually go and
Mm-hmm.
get assistance for whatever may be afflicting you. And we're talking about depression right now. If you in the
Right.
room crying for no reason, you might have an issue. You might
Yeah.
want to go get you. If you get mad because this, you said the sky is sky blue and they say it's a teal blue, and the argument starts. Something's going on inside that you're not speaking about, my brother, and you got to get able to, get some help with that. And that's from a man to a man, and there ain't nothing wrong with it, because I can tell you a couple of stories. I'm not going to do it right now, but had I not gone to get some assistance, I wouldn't be talking to y'all right now. But when you
Yes.
look at things and you sometimes you have to say, am I going to choose pride or am I going to choose strength? And sometimes to get stronger, you got to get weak to build yourself back up. And it takes a while. You'll get mad, you'll get frustrated, and it's going to bother you. But if you give up, you lose. If you keep going, it'll work out.
So hey Mark, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing now? Like I said, I didn't see you a long time now.
Pretty good, pretty good. So, our topic today is men and depression. I wanted to finish out the month of May to just go out with this topic, because this is very important, because normally we don't isolate men conversations, like have conversations surrounded around, men and depression or mental health altogether. So I wanted to do that. And, I'm going to go back to, what you said earlier, Dean, about the Superman syndrome, because I was talking about that before you clicked in about Superman.
Oh, wow.
Superman did show different emotions. He really, really did. And the thing is, as a society, when you think about society and Black men, Black women, Black boys. So I'm really talking about you all, because I want, again, isolate you all today. You are groomed a certain way where you're not supposed to show certain emotions, especially sadness, because again, it appears that you will come across weak. Also, if I can remember growing up hearing, even if it was, I don't even know if my uncles did this with my brothers, but I've heard other men in the community will say, stop crying, you shouldn't be crying. And they're talking about that. I can say my dad did that, because my dad was supposed to be a dad, a manly man. So his sons were supposed to be the same way. But what it does is it causes a consequence later in life. And that is not knowing or identifying when you are actually going through different emotions or different symptoms, even the signs of depression, because you can't even identify it because you never knew how to tap in to that emotion.
That's true. Men were different. You know what I mean? And when I say different, we were raised to, you can't walk around, boys. I'll start from there. A boy falls, we watch him. What you gonna do? Go ahead, get up, man. Go ahead and get up. Get up. Come on. A girl falls, we all over it. Come on, get up. We all tender and all of that stuff. We were raised not in a bad way, but not to exhibit all of those. Like mama taught us how to be nice and mannerable and all of that stuff. Daddy taught us how to handle what's going to happen to you when you walk outside this door, so that when somebody calls you out of your name. And I grew up in Virginia, so when they call you that other name, you didn't fall to pieces. And when people that you work with may have said some things, whether they look like you or not, you were able to handle the adversity. And it was their unique way of teaching us that. But the byproduct of that was, now we figure we can handle every and anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, we learned all of those things, but I was 23 years old when I finally learned that it was okay to cry, and I didn't care. My mother passed, and I didn't give a damn who saw me, 250 pounds, and didn't give a damn, because my mama was gone. And after I did that, I actually felt better that I wasn't holding all of this stuff in, carrying everything on my shoulders. I can actually get this out.
Mm-hmm.
My father was there. My father said to me, you know what? You're going to feel better. And he didn't say a lot of words, but, you had to kind of decipher some of the stuff that was said. And it was like, how am I feel better? Mama not here no more. He was like, yeah, you can't change that. But you can change how you react and how you act to the rest of the world. Because before then, I wouldn't talk to people. If I didn't know you, there was no conversation. I don't care what you said. You handed me some money, I'm going to take it. I'm not even going to say thank you. Bye. Get out my face. You know what I mean? Only the people that I really knew were the people that I had a conversation for, and then everybody else was pushed to the side. So can you imagine a doctor? Hell no, I'm not going to. I don't know these people, man, getting in my business, want to know all of this stuff. Then I got sick.
Mm-hmm. So Mark, what say you? What do you think?
No, definitely, it's something that we don't talk about enough in the sense of our relationships and all along those lines. So a lot of times we don't uh, try to be overly emotional and everything like that. But a lot of times it is the way you're raised, and I know that I was raised to be able to speak our mind and to share those emotions. I think that both my mom and my dad were not afraid to have you share those emotions. But yeah, it was definitely a stigma in a lot of communities that if you cried, that you were seen as a sissy, if I can use those kind of terms and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was definitely a stereotype that existed, even though, like I said, my grandparents and my parents were basically like, look, if there's something that you got to let out emotionally, you got to let it out. And particularly, like Dean was saying, if it's something that really struck you and everything like that. And sometimes the things that struck you might be something that would shock you that struck you, but sometimes you got to let those tears out and everything like that. Because as I've said on this show and I've said on some other shows before, I don't have any right now, but I am a pet lover and everything like that. And I can remember some times that I had some animals that passed away, whether that was from natural causes or whether that was from being attacked and everything like that. And I know that both you and your husband are dog lovers and everything, but I will never forget. And I think I was a youngster. I was probably like all of about let's see, I was in Greensboro at the time, so I was 9 or 10 at that particular time. And I remember having a very cat that I was very much attached to. It's a Siamese cat and everything like that. I think we called it Mr. Squirrel, if I remember correctly and everything. But that cat was mauled by a dog and everything like that. And I remember after seeing that mauled body and seeing that cat mauled, that as a youngster, I was over there. I was bawling. I was bawling big time because that was my buddy. That was my little buddy and everything. That cat had been mauled by that dog. So I was out there just bawling big time. And I think my parents realized that. And the funny thing, and you'll get a kick out of this just to show how those memories can resonate with us 20, 30 years later, is that or even 50 years later, is that I remember going to the kitchen and we had two Siameses and the other Siamese, Clarence, was still around and everything like that. And I remember literally crying in Clarence's fur. So if you can see this 10-year-old Mark and everything crying in Clarence's fur and everything like that. But cats and other animals are sensitive to our human situation and everything like that. So that cat just let me bawl out like the little boy that I was and let me just bawl, put it wet its fur all day long. It was not going to move until I finished my emotions, because that cat knew that his brother, he could sense that his brother had been killed, and that's why I was upset and everything like that. So I just remember, like, I probably cried in that cat's fur for a good hour and everything like that. And that cat did not move. Cats are very squirmish, but that cat was picking up the vibe that I was giving. It was like basically like, I am not moving. This man needs to vent on my fur.
That's right. That's right. But I like the fact you said your parents encouraged that type of expression, because not a lot of young men get that it's okay to be like that. I know when we were raising my son, or our son really, John and I never taught him to not express his feelings, because that's you have to. Because that's normal. You're a human being. You're going to hurt. You're going to cry. You're going to be angry. You are going to go through different type of emotions. But when the danger comes in, that is when these emotions become so, I would say, overly too much to handle. And what I say about that is, this is where you have to identify the differences between typical sadness and becoming overly sad. Because overly sad is when you start checking out on a lot of things. You start withdrawing. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to even, be there for yourself. So there's so many things that start happening. It's just layer of things that are happening. And this is where you start seeing, wow, depression may be happening. But if you can't identify it yourself, how would you know that you're going through it? So that's the key here, for today is like learning to identify, men, Black men, men of color in general. All of you need to know how to tap in and identify what those feelings are and what they actually look like. So I'm going to ask you this, Dean, until Mark probably pops back in, because he's at his community center today. Right. So what does depression look like in men or work with? What would it look like for you? How does it show up?
You know what? Withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
Loss of interest in things that you once may have enjoyed, and that's everything. It doesn't matter what it may be: sex, food, games, entertainment, whatever it may be. You're no longer interested in those things. You start to have a sense of I wouldn't even say it's a sense. You'll be easily irritable.
Yes.
Yes. You start wanting to talk about things that people start thinking about that last day syndrome, I call it. It's like, I'm not gonna be here too much longer. No, you talk about right now, because shit, we get off at 4:00. We're about to leave now. I ain't gonna really be around that much longer. Okay, right. So you're talking about something beyond like the end of day work day. You talk about the end of life. Okay, well, you might need to talk to somebody about that, or have you ever thought about going to some assistance for that? And you'll hear, no, I'm not going there. I ain't weak. Well, yeah, you are, because the more you sit in the mud, the more you're going to sink in the mud. At what point are you going to the land is right there beside the mud, and you're sitting in the mud, but you won't take the steps to get on the land. You got to free yourself, but you can't do it by yourself. If you need some assistance, we have different things, that employee assistance program, things like that. If you don't want to talk to them, then we have the insurance where you can actually God prayerfully, what we do, where we can actually, talk to a mental health clinician so that we can get some kind of to the point of where we are and where we need to be. But you need somebody to talk you through that. They're not going to solve the problem for you. So if you're calling like fix my life, this ain't the Yama. We're not doing that. But at the same time, you need to talk to a clinician who's able to ask you the right questions to see where you are, where you're thinking, and how you can get out of that sticky situation where you're sitting.
Okay. Gene and April, just really quickly along those same lines, because that's a conversation that I'm gonna be honest and just be forthright here. Me and my brother have been avoiding it big time, and you actually brought it up earlier in the conversation when you were talking about your dad and everything like that. But my dad returned 85 on June 20th, and I know that he's thinking about the fact that he is a mortal. We are all mortal beings and everything like that. And of course, at some point, he would like me and my brother to have a conversation about what we'll do in terms of property and in terms of arrangements and things like that. Dad is not a deeply religious man and everything like that, but I'm sure he's got some things that he wants to do, whether that's his body being cremated or whether that's his body being buried, which I doubt he wants, and everything like that. But I'm sure that he wants us to have that conversation. And I know that my brother's got his own health issues that he's going through. And all along those lines, of course, my nephews are about to graduate. The oldest will graduate in 2 weeks, right? It'll be 2 weeks from to yesterday and everything like that. But I know Dad wants us to have that conversation with him. And I know for a fact that me and my brother have been avoiding having that conversation, but we know we got to have it at some point. And that's something that men don't like to have. And that can lead to some of that depression because we are all mortal beings and everything like that. And I mean, we all want to think that our pops and our moms are going to live till they're 100, 150, 200. If we had our way and everything like that, but that's not our way. It's up to God. That's how long people are going to be around and everything like that. But I mean, we had our dreams. We like them to be around as long as us, if not longer than us, even though can be very sad because I've had friends that have gone through that when a youngster is past what do they say, before their time and everything like that. So like when the youngster leaves and the parents have outlived their kids and everything like that. So I know that's a whole nother thing that can happen in this whole depression conversation and all along those lines. But I do know that it's a conversation that because even mom was like, y'all got to have that conversation because dad's trying to have it with y'all and it seems like y'all are trying to avoid it. But I know that at some point, probably sometime in the month of June, probably around his birthday, because we touched on it last year when he hit 84, but this year will be 85 and everything like that. And he had some health concerns. I've talked about it here on the show where he had like some heart issues that he still has to go and have treatments for and everything like that. So I do know that he's thinking about his own mortality. But when you think about it, that mortality, it can also lead to depression and everything like that. Because to be perfectly honest, April and Dean, when I think about my own depression and my own times of being sad and deeply sad, it's when I have those thoughts of what it'll be like when I'm not here on this planet and everything like that. Because none of us want to have that. I mean, we know it's coming at some point, but none of us want to have that last breath and everything like that. So that's when a lot of times that one depression can come in because then you start thinking, have I accomplished my goals? Have I not accomplished my goals? Are there things that I still want to get done? And all along those lines. But we all know that we are mere mortals on this earth and everything like that. So we're all going to perish at some point or another. But that can be the depressing point and everything. And it depends on your spiritual beliefs. Like you said, some people think that once we're done, we're toast, and there is no return. Other people think that there are us coming back multiple times and everything like that. And there's that whole notion of reincarnation, where you come back as a chipmunk or an otter or something like that. But there's that whole notion of how do we come back and everything like that. And then there's some people that talk about heaven's gates. But if you're at heaven's gates, because I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine recently, and they were talking about like if we are, as they say, spirits in there, and we're like a form of energy or a form of light. Because I know we always say that we're watching back over those that have passed on and everything. But
Right.
how is that materialized? And do you actually feel it? I mean, none of us will know these profound answers until we get to that profound place. And I'm not in a rush to get to that profound place, but like I said, one never knows. Could step outside and get hit by a car today. No, hopefully not, but it could happen and
Hopefully
everything.
not. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely, so that's what that can lead to some of that depression. Because then you also start thinking about what haven't you accomplished and everything like that. Because I mean, some of the times, and I've talked about on this show, that I get into that form of depression and all along those lines is that I am 64, will be 64 in July 1st and everything like that. And unless I get really lucky and find myself somebody that is much younger or that is willing to go into the adoption phase and everything like that, I will have people that I have mentored, and I am glad to have mentored many people, but I would not have had a natural continuation of the birth line the way that you and April have had and everything like that. So I do sometimes
Right.
think about that and everything, but then I've also got friends that'll be like, hey, you never can tell. You might stumble across some 30, 40-year-old that still wants to have kids and everything like that because it can happen for us older gentlemen and everything like that. But that can lead to forms of depression and just in terms of is that what you want? Is that how do you really want to be a grandfather, go into somebody's graduation and everything like that with like an 80, 90-year-old man and everything like that? So there's all those kind of questions that can lead to some of those deep thoughts around depression and our own mental health.
Yes, yes. So I do have, there's going to be a series of questions that I'm going to be asking you to because this dialogue is very helpful for those that are listening to us. And I encourage that, that hopefully the men will be tuning in later on after this show to the replay. So next question is, why do you think so many men struggle to say, I'm not okay? What's the struggle?
Well, I'll take that just really quickly. I think a lot of times people are afraid to admit their weaknesses. I mean, we all have weaknesses. We all have things that we are struggling with, whether that is emotional issues that we've kind of talked about on this show, or whether that's traits, because we all have traits that are some traits that we're proud of, some that we're not proud of. I mean, I've joked on this show and other shows that, I remember the old show, The Odd Couple, and yeah, I can be more of an Oscar than a Felix, and I'm not exactly proud of that fact and everything like that. So there's a lot of times things that we don't are afraid to admit and to let out those emotions because we're afraid of the judgment that people will make. And sometimes people will make that judgment and they'll also make that judgment and use it as a weapon and everything like that. Because that can also happen in relationships. And I think that's why some guys get upset and are afraid to bring up some of their weaknesses, whether that's a weakness around transportation, a weakness around their financial status, their marital status, whatever their status might be, and everything, because they're afraid that if somebody comes into their life, that they can weaponize it. I mean, it's part of the reason that people don't bring in their past, even though we all have baggage and everything like that. But sometimes people don't bring in that past baggage because they're afraid that people will not just recognize the baggage and accept the baggage, but they will use it as a form of a weapon and weaponize it.
Agreed. And that will cause someone to not express themselves. But Dean, I'm going to throw that question to you as well, and then I'll piggyback off of what you're going to say about this question too.
Um, hmm. It's interesting. Men do admit they have issues, but it's kind of indirect. It's guarded, or like we talked about before, shaped on how they were raised. So a man won't say I'm overwhelmed, but he'll say something like I'm tired, or I'm off, or I just need a second to get myself together. Instead of naming that issue, instead of us naming the issue, we might say, you know what, can you help me with something? And then go into it from there. Or, I used to be able to do this, and this, but I'm not able to focus like I used to. I'm not able to 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 stay on point like I used to. You know what I'm saying? Then they start getting a lot of headaches, fatigue, body aches. Before talking about emotions, again, we holding all this stuff in, so it's a whole storm going on inside, and refusing to just let it out. So now they may have maybe one or two people they really trust, right? So they might say something like, I've been dealing with something, and just leave it open to see if the other person bites, like, what's wrong?
Right.
Or if they get that, man, you're going to be all right, hold it down, suck that shit up, you're going to be good. And if he hears suck that up, guess what he's going to do? He's going to suck it right on up. Here the storm is going on inside again, and he can't get it out because he was waiting for you to say, what's wrong? Sometimes we wait for the gate to be open instead of opening the gate ourselves. So now we sitting there waiting, and the gate doesn't open. So the person that you trust to stand on the other side be like, dog, you can handle that. You took care of this. You handle this. You do this. Now they start naming stuff that you normally do, like pay your bills. You know what I'm saying? You hold down a household, man. You paying for your house. You paying for your car. That ain't the same, dog. Because if I wreck my car, I got gap insurance. I'm going to get a new car no matter what. I can't get a new me. And that's the part where we don't take the time to realize that material possessions are not mental possessions. So that's where we have to get out of the way, thinking that, I can think about my mental health, my physical well-being the same way I think about a car or a house. It's totally different.
So what I'm going to add to both of your comments to the question is, when there is, or how we are taught certain things, there's a level of conditioning we go through. So emotional conditioning is something that we are taught to do because we become conditioned to certain emotions. So if you are always told that you must react in this way, anger, anger, defense, defense, defense. You are going to condition yourself to respond as such. You can also condition yourself to suppress a feeling like sadness. So you can tell yourself, no, if you show that, you're going to be weak. You're going to be weak. So you're conditioning yourself, and others can do it as well. When we're growing up, I'm just going to use typical way of being raised. We grow up, you're taught certain things. Okay. So what do we consider those to be? Traditions and values. We are conditioned to carry those things with us. And then later on, we will regurgitate it back into certain settings. And then we will always bring something else in that we want to learn. But again, we're conditioned to do certain things. Okay. So when you think about young girls and young boys, we're conditioned to do or react in different ways. Girls will be encouraged to cry. So now you're conditioning me to express myself. Where on the other end, young men can be conditioned not to express themselves. So I want people to know what happens in the brain. I'm not going to go through all the scientific basis of it, but it goes into where a certain part of your brain, where your brain is going to tap into what is familiar, what comes back out because you're conditioned to respond in that way. Okay, so it is so deep where we go, but I think a lot of the times when we automatically respond, the automatic response is a conditioned response. It's automatic. You will automatically respond because that's what you were conditioned to do in certain situations. Okay, so I wanted to talk about conditioning because I don't think people even understand that that is an element in places that we go that becomes normal for us. That's normality. So different things that are normal to us, we're always going to do because we're conditioned to do as such. So I wanted to add to that. So even if you have a comment following behind that before we move to the next question, if you don't, we're good. Hopefully everyone understands that too about conditioning because it's something that needed to be talked about. So my next question for all of us to discuss is, how do you think childhood messages about strength shape how men handle depression today? This is an excellent question that I would love the two of you to answer. What do you think? I can ask that question again.
Hold on. Yeah, ask that question one more time. I'm trying to make sure I got that in my brain.
How do you think childhood messages about strength shape how men handle depression today? It's a little tough, huh?
You know what? I'm gonna try to answer part of that.
Okay, we're gonna talk about it.
And when we talk about that, you know, your elders are like, when you're growing up, those are the folks that to you have the answers and the blueprint on how we should walk through this thing that we call life. So it depends on what your teachers look like and what they say that determines how you react or how you answer certain things. I'll use, for an example, a lot of us that are seasoned now, we're taught by somebody. It may have been a cousin, an uncle, a parent, or whatever, that when a woman says no, she really means yes. Lie number one, because damn it, no means no. And we had some people that grew up, we learned quickly that, you know, because we had women in our family that were saying, hold on now, you're like, if you do that, it's going to be a problem. So you might want to think and make your next move your best move. And some of our fellow men didn't. Hence, they sit in situations that they can't get themselves out of. Things that we would learn, how to act, how to respond, how to talk, how to walk. All of those things we learned from somebody else. Who was the example that you paid the most attention to is who you have somewhat become now. Because once we get older, you know, people say folks change, but not that much. You know, It was always in you. If you're a good dude, you're a good dude. If you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit. You might be dressed up in good clothes, but you still raggedy. You know what I mean? And who did you pay attention to? And sometimes it wasn't always a direct. Fortunately for me, it was my father. It was my uncles, my bigger cousins who kept me on the right, the right road or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we did have some examples that didn't fit quite well, but when they didn't fit in life, we realized, you know what, I'm really not going to follow this cat right here because he keep running in front of the train. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? So we are taught, and some people unfortunately are taught the wrong thing. Some people know the right things and choose to do the wrong things. And then the rest of us do what we've been taught, and we make our elders and ancestors proud of us and who we've become as adults.
So I have a follow-up piggyback question to just kind of help us explore this question some more. So tell me about when little boys socialize together. What does that look like when y'all are socializing?
I mean, I can talk about that. When I was socializing, it varies because, like I said, when I was I don't remember it as a baby because that's when I was in Turkey and everything like that. But my first socialization I remember was when I was in Greensboro. That's where the cats were and everything like that. And I remember socializing with friends of mine and the different folks and getting to learn them and everything. Of course, there was competition. There was even competition around the whole dating lane and everything like that because even little boys might have their little childhood crushes and stuff like that. So I do remember that. And sometimes you couldn't compete with the crush because I remember one of the kids that was next to the door. She was a young girl and everything, and I, as a young boy, knew that I wasn't going to compete because she had a crush on Michael Jackson, and that's before we knew all of Michael Jackson's adulthood drama and everything like that. So we just swore up and down that she would go marry Michael Jackson because she was all in love with the Jackson Five and everything like that. And then as I got to Warrenton, I was the new kid on the block, and I know that even Dean can relate to that, being the new kid on the block and coming to a neighborhood, and a lot of these people were cousins and relatives of each other and everything like that. I remember one of the towns was called Tunstallville because they were all Tunstals and everything like that. So I remember there was other towns that were very much like that. And but you're the new kid on the block, so then folks want to try to test you. And when they try to test you, they might try to test you by seeing if you're gonna get with their cousin or you're gonna get with this person or that person. They might even offer them up to you and everything like that because they were trying to test you to see if you were going to meet their qualifications to be one of their boys and everything like that. And I remember being in some like little fights, but you try to handle your own. I might be the nerd in the bunch and might have been playing chess and drama and stuff like that. But I would also try to play a pickup game of baseball or a pickup game of basketball and try to hold my own so that I could prove that I could hang with those folks that were in that spot and everything. But there were other things that they were doing that I wasn't able to relate to because, like I said, that was the way that they indoctrinated you. And I remember listening to some folks would be like, "That's not what we did," but as I recall it and everything, I remember one of them offering me basically their cousin for a sexual conquest and everything like that. But it's kind of hard to get things up when you know that there's a whole audience behind you, behind them. They put you like in a little room and everything and say, "You go for it," and everything. And you sit there going like 10 of y'all back in the back there. I don't know that we're going to do anything. Let's be for real because there's some of that testing going on and all along those lines. So, yeah, I probably failed that test as a kind of person that's coming into a new neighborhood and everything like that. But to your other point, just really quickly and all along those lines, Dr. April, I do remember I was fortunate that I had a lot of, just like Dean had a lot of strong male figures. I had a lot of strong male figures in my life too. I had uncles. I had definitely some. Ed was a strong figure. Some of his friends were strong figures, including the one that helped me get to Marquette, Howard Fuller, and a lot of other people that were strong male figures. But the thing that I had that it was an advantage that not everybody had is that I've never been intimidated by women bosses or women leaders because I had strong women in my life, and they actually taught me that it was all right to have a strong woman leader. Now, some guys are not taught that, and that's where they run into problems in corporate America, whether it's in a pharmaceutical company or a government office or whatever, because they see some of these women in control positions and they don't know how to handle that. But like I said, I was fortunate that my mom and dad created a radio station. My grandmother, as I told you before, started the first Black library in Raleigh. So grandma on mom's side was a major cafeteria worker, but she was also a community leader. So I was used to women in leadership positions, whether that was in their church or whether that was in life in general. So to come into a job and have a woman's boss was nothing that would go intimidate me, but that might intimidate some gentlemen and might even cause them to go into depression.
So let me welcome Toya in. Hey, Toya. I know you're just joining us because you have something else to do today. But again, this topic is about men and depression. I wanted to end the month because in this month we have Mental Health Week awareness, but I wanted to at least end our month of On the Couch with a heavy topic as such, men and depression. And the question is around childhood, what happened during childhood, and what does that look like as they grow up as adults. And I'm glad our two co-hosts that came on, our males, are able to kind of guide us through these questions because of their experiences, because we were not boys. You and I were little girls.
But I'm a boy mom, so that's
right,
a good one.
Right too. Yeah, well. Being a boy mom. Yeah, and being a boy mom, you're right. That is a excellent point, because being a boy mom, we get to also shape them and help them learn how to express their feelings. But what I wanted to piggyback off of too, and then Toya, I'm going to let you actually say something about this as well. When you all were giving the examples of what happens from childhood to adulthood, what came up for me when you're socializing as little boys, what would have that looked like if you happened to cry in front of another boy? Would you be supported? Would you be bullied? So these are the things that was coming to my mind, because what happens as that, you carry that as that little boy into adulthood, because again, if other little boys are conditioned that they cannot show their expressions as such as crying, that is going to come out on the playground. So Toya, as the boy mom, have you experienced that? And then we're going to let our brothers answer that question.
Of course. Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, I just came to the funeral of my son's best friend, one of my bonus sons. So today, this is befitting, and I tell you, with alignment, as we say, Dr. Diamond, God will blow our mind, and this is very appropriate, because that's why I'm tardy today, and I usually don't like to be tardy. But when you actually go through something like this, a loss of a 25-year-old, and as you just stated, I was with the masses of the kids. I walked in with the kids because I was a teen mom. I was, because they're French, African French. So that's where, in respect to Stephen Messier, and today to actually see the young boys, there were a couple of them that cried. Some of them didn't. Shades were on, but I could see the ones that I thought were going to cry didn't. The ones that I wasn't expecting. So this is very befitting for this topic, as I did not go to the burial site. This is hard for me, because this is when I spoke to my son, because he was unable to be there. This is the third loss that he's had, and he's taking it hard. 3 accidents that he would have been in. And I said, you have a praying family. And I said, I just held the mom, and, he was a fixture because of the cultural differences and, all the memories that were shared, and where I could see him, and knowing that he was the backbone. Too early. So just to actually conclude on that, it's hard for a man to cry. It's hard. And I think that, with my son, I explained to him, I said, these are your emotions. I don't want you to stuff it. As we know, we stuff those emotions, and eventually it'll explode. And, you wonder why people are incarcerated. And I used to say, because I worked with a lot of folks for the DOC and doing my biopsychosocial assessments, they wouldn't cry. Why are you here? Some of them would. And I said, this is a safe space so that you can be emotional, because sometimes it's about responding and not reacting. And I think as women, right, they say women are crazy. No, we're not. What happens is we're the stoic ones in silence. However, when we cry, as the pastor said today, when you cry, there was real love there. Real love. So the whole thing is for anyone listening. And thank you, Dr. Diamond, as we close out Mental Health Awareness Month. It's okay to be soft and pink, as we say, Because if there's real love, for the men listening, if there's real love in that situation, you are able to cry. Do you guys receive that, Dean Geronimo, Markley? Do you receive that? If there's real love, you can cry. Because today I was blown, because this little boy, I say that because, and just to give me a moment, just as they celebrated his life, a funeral is celebrating someone's life. I heard the stories, I wouldn't have spoken. However, I didn't want to end because his girlfriend needed to hit the last words. And as I say, it was a common thread of celebration and of us doing what we need to do in our dash. So now it is mental health awareness. Be who you're going to be. And it's okay to cry. So thank you, Dr. Diamond, for the moment.
Yes, thank you for expressing that, and so sorry for your loss, because that is a loss for you as well. So Dean, I saw you shaking your head when I said about the little boys on the playground, and somebody shows the emotion, what happens? So I think it resonated with you. So what happened? Because you shook your head when I said that.
Because we have laughed at a whole bunch of dudes. You out there playing, and you get hit a little too hard, you start crying, take your soft ass home. Bye.
Okay. You and the cousin that I had,
go play with the Barbie doll.
But I had to be a lady. But when I went to Mississippi, you was that cousin that came in my face or whatever, and you would push me, kick my leg, or whatever.
Go play with the Barbie dolls. If you are not, and I was a fat kid, so I was angry anyway. So I wore husky and shit.
So that explains it. So thank you for explaining that.
So I had to wear husky. So guess what? Go ahead and fall and start crying. Get your soft ass over there with the Barbie dolls. Bye.
I got a question, if I may.
There's a whole bunch of girls and Barbie dolls over there. Get the comb in their hair, because you're not built for this shit that's over here.
Terrible.
Okay, I want to say something, and I'm going to be, because I'm coming from this. I lost my mom young. The first time I was hit by a man was in the 4th grade. Let me tell you this. So, and we already made amends. Me and Robert, I'm not going to put his last name on. We made amends after that. So in 4th grade, I go to the school. I'm the new kid on the block. I walk in there, we're at the board. So I said, whatever he says, your mother. So, 2 years ago, my mother passed. But why? So I hit him with the yardstick. He punched me in my mouth.
Oh, wait.
So,
hold on.
Yes,
hold on.
I got hit by a boy in the 4th grade.
Wait,
so why did he hit me?
Wait. You said you hit him first?
He said your mother. Right?
No,
I want to answer to this. I'm trying to bury this. He said your mama. Out of nowhere. So I picked up the yardstick, hit him in the back, and he punched me in my mouth.
That's why you got bust in the head.
But why did he say my mama? But why did he go below the belt, Dean Geronimo?
You gotta remember, before boys realize that girls are to be cherished, loved, and you look just like us. So you just got longer hair and your clothes are a little bit different. You wear the dress.
But that doesn't mean that he hit me, because you started it though. Hold on. Listen. Because as going on 53 years old right now, I tell you, if you hit me first, I promise you, I'm gonna give you what the fuck you looking for. Okay.
And it ain't got nothing to do.
Still, I understand that part, but
it has nothing to do with being abusive. It has everything to do with defending myself. Because one thing I'm not gonna let ever happen to me again in my life is to do that dumb shit. Oh, you hit me, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm on Snap in the box because you killed me, because I let you beat the hell out of me, and it becomes a normal.
You're not gonna turn the other cheek again.
I get that. I understand that, right? But words too.
You hit me as respectful as I am, but if you hit me in anger, I'm going to return it to you in kind, and that's me, self-preservation. Now,
correct. So what should have happened? So let me ask you a question though. I get what you're saying,
day, right?
But then so why would someone say something hurtful to a woman like that, a young girl? So that's
it don't matter who it is.
I would like to answer that question because as the adult, right? Growing up as adults, because we're adults now. I went through the same thing pretty much, Tori, what you went through too. I had it was myself and this young boy as well. He lashed out at me. He said, your mother, and then I unleashed on him. Now here's the thing, you unleashed like I did because our pain made us do that. Okay, they're not going to know exactly why we're unleashing on them, because we're not going to say to them, oh, I lost my mom, until after the fact, when you have to explain why you got into this actual confrontation, because that's what happened. Now here's the thing, that young man was ignorant to your pain. He would have not known exactly why, unless he was sitting there in your, went to your mom's services, someone actually told him, whatever it was, or he was being malicious because he knew and made that statement. So again, the young man that when I went to school, he wouldn't have known that, because I had just moved from the Bronx to Manhattan. So he wouldn't have known that I lost my mom. The only reason why he knew it after the fact is because how I responded to him and what I did.
But
So
Dr. April, just really quickly, a couple of things. One, aren't there certain things that are off limits? And I think that's where Toya was going and everything like that. Because I think that certainly you are not supposed to talk about people's mothers, or definitely some other things that are in their grandparents and other things along those lines. So the fact that he even came out there with that kind of conversation
He
about
wanted to
your
fight.
mama and everything like that, I mean, it's kind of like, even to this day, I mean, I know we're talking about depression, but I know that, and Dean, you'll be able to relate to this and everything like that, because it's part of the, and even April and Toya, it's part of the prison culture and everything like that. But I know that I get around, I don't hide it, I get around by mass transit and everything. And there could be a lot of people on a bus and everything like that. So I know that even if I step on a man's kicks and everything, I'm gonna tell him, I'm gonna let him know that I'm sorry, because I know that people are very sensitive about their kicks and everything like that. And even though it's an accident, I'm letting them know right off the top of the bat, I will not try to mess with your kicks and everything like that. So I'm just letting them know off the bat, because I'm just being real, dude. Because so folks are real proud
Yeah,
about their kicks
yeah,
and everything like
about a
that.
damn pair of raggedy ass shoes that was put together with some plastic and some thread, and people treat, again, material possessions like they are golden.
Right.
The older person in me will say, you know what, before you get there, I'm gonna preface this, I'm gonna let you go ahead and walk the other way, and I'm gonna mind my own business, because I'm not responsible for what happens after that.
Right.
So before we even get there, let's go ahead and fix that up, right?
That's
You
what I'm
want
saying, Dean. That's what I was doing with the kicks. Like I said, it was an inadvertent me just stepping on the kicks. I've done it three or
But
four
some
times in the
people are
last week.
just dumb. You know what I mean? And then as you try to leave a situation, now they're following behind you. At that point, I have every right. I don't care if you man, woman, grown kid, baby, or whatever. If you come behind me in an aggressive manner, I have that
No,
right.
and I agree with you on that, because there have been some people that have come and cook. But ironically, now this is where it gets ironic. Ironically, some of the people that have come at me most aggressively, and in one case, the woman is, because I run into across her quite often. She's got some mental issues and everything along those lines. But she came at me one time, and she came real aggressively, and I had to turn back around at her and be like, "Look, you don't know me, and if you don't know me, I'm gonna take you out and everything like that, because you don't know me and you don't know what you're messing with and everything like that." Because she tried to come up with some stupid remark saying that I had said something that I didn't say, or that I had done something that I had done and everything like that. So once you get stupid, I agree with you, Dean.
I'm gonna have to
All
take you
bets
to
are off and
church.
everything like that.
Yeah, I got cut
yeah.
off. I hope I didn't miss anything because I'm in my
No,
car.
you didn't miss anything.
Not
It was
not
just a
yet.
response that they were giving to our, experience with the young men. And Mark, you're right that there are certain things you do not talk about as people parents, because you can hit someone below the belt doing that. So again, you
And
don't know what the person's
You don't
actually going.
you don't talk about
but you
people's
don't know,
parents.
that's a trigger, right, Dr. Diamond? Those are
It's a
triggers. And
trigger
see,
for
the thing
anyone.
is,
No,
sometimes,
but
if I may,
yeah,
because I work in this field for so long, I have been on both sides of this, and I think
Mm.
that sometimes accountability is where people don't like it. So for
mhm.
me, because I've worked on my own healing, if someone says something, I say, hold up. I was speaking to a family member, or I said, that's a dagger. What do you mean? What I'm saying to you, for a person who's healed themselves and there are triggers, and if you know something is a hot error for me, why would you do that? And that's the part that I don't understand. And I think that
Oh,
we
that's
all
easy.
need to know that loving kindness. I know, Dr. Diamond, you always speak of peace and tranquility. When we get up every day, it's peace and tranquility. When we go outside, we have to have an armor on. As a believer, I got the armor of God, because sometimes you don't know what people are going through. Give everyone grace. We are of a certain age right now, and I can say this. and you probably all can agree with me, we've all been through something. But when you go out into the world, always think of that. Grace. I'm by myself, so you know what? You don't know what someone else is going through with road rage. You hear in the South, people get shot, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
wondering why. I remember there was a client, my first biopsychosocial assessment, this guy killed his wife. He said, ma'am, I did not kill my wife. She walked into the shed. The gun went off. I love my wife. I felt his pain. And I said, okay. And I'm new in the career. I said, well, we're going to work through this. There are accidents. And that's one thing I can say through the years, the decades of working with people. I really felt this guy was innocent. I couldn't prove it. So only thing I'm saying is you don't know what people got on their plate. That particular day, I went through it. Dr. Diamond went through it. Mark went through it. If you don't know what someone is going through, always remember that. Then we can have a peace and tranquil and have a conversation. And don't get upset when someone says something to you. You get it? Because what'll happen is someone will do something to you. You want to address it. They acting like there's an elephant in the room. Don't you know? Don't you know there's somebody that sees things, all things I tell my son and the kids that I mentor. There's always big brother. Someone always watching. It's always your side and the other side and what actually happened. So that's where what I say with talking to folks, let them know as parents. I think that sometimes we don't want to talk about things. I was a mother that was very honest with my son about stuff. Because again, with the crying or anything like that, it depends on the individual to knowing who they are. I'm fresh off watching the Michael Jackson movie. And that right there, I think we need to have a conversation about that, Dr. Diamond. That movie in itself had a lot of themes in it. And, you know, with men, I digress with that. But if anyone watched that Michael Jackson movie.
So let's Dean, I'm gonna have you make this last comment on this particular conversation, but I'd like to move on and get us back to our topic. Yeah. All right.
I just want to say that, you know what, I'm not really much going to concern myself too much with what everybody else thinks, what they have going on or whatever in their life. Whatever you bring to me, once you set the stage, that's where the performance is going to take place. I don't care if you got mental illness. I got the medicine for you if you don't leave. I'm going to give you the out, but I'm not going to take a long time trying to get out. See, y'all are the clinicians. I don't do that. So I don't have that patience. Every person is not gonna, you know, you got a limit on grace with me. And if you come in disrespect, it's met with aggression. It's met with disrespect, and I mean it. So when people say stuff, a lot of times when they say that ill stuff to you, they meant to say it. Don't give them a pass for that, because then they come back and they say the two words that I consider to be the most overused and worthless words, and they say, I'm sorry. No, you're not sorry. You're just trying to smooth it over because you realize that person is somebody worthwhile to you, and in your ignorance, you did that and you said that, and now you're trying to clean it up. There's no cleanup on aisle 6.
I hear you, big bro. I hear you, big bro. All right,
so let's move forward and get back to the topic because it veered off from what we were talking about. So I need to bring us back. You know, our listeners want to hear what we're talking about, which is men and depression. So I do want to talk about what are some signs of depression in men that people often misinterpret. So when you think about, here are some examples. Anger could be really sadness that's displayed. Silence that's demonstrated could also be feeling of overwhelmed. So, you know, again, if those are just examples. So what may be some other signs that men are actually going through depression, but it's not shown in that manner? Because I know earlier about withdrawal. What else?
The biggest sign is what you just kind of alluded to. To me, when I know that people are being depressed, and they've actually told me this, is when they are isolating themselves and basically trying to not be involved in things that you are used to them being involved in. Most men have got a hobby or an interest or something that is going on in their life and everything like that. I can say, well, I'll just give an example. and I've talked about it before. My brother is very active in fantasy football. He got me into fantasy football. He's very active in slingshot and the slingshot community and everything like that. I've got another brother that is very into his photography, both for his wife as a professional and everything like that. He's actually a Jewish brother and everything like that. And he's also very much involved in going to hockey games and other sporting events as well. If either one of those individuals stop doing those activities, I'm gonna go check on them because I know that that's part of their being in their life and everything like that. So if like all of a sudden, if Malik is like, I'm not driving my slingshot, and I'm not, because they do a lot of community work. I'm not being involved in this. I'm not being involved with my sons and everything like that, or I'm not engaged in a conversation with them. I'm not checking in on my aunt, and I'm not checking in on my mom and everything like that, or I'm not engaged in fantasy football. I don't give a crap about fantasy football and things like that. I'm checking on that boy because those are things that I know that he is passionate about and that he's interested in. The same with Martin. If Martin tells me I'm not going any more photography, or I'm not giving a crap about the Canes, which is the Hurricane team that just went to the Stanley Cup, or they're going to be playing Vegas and everything. But if he starts telling me he's not going to those games, or he's not watching those games on TV, I'm calling his wife and being like, "What's going on?" Because that don't sound like the Martin that I know and everything like that. If he tells me, because we get together about once a month or maybe twice a month to have a restaurant at different restaurants. So he's like, I don't feel like going to no restaurant and checking out it with you and everything like that. Yeah, I'm gonna start wondering, because that sounds to me like that's something that is being interest of yours that you're no longer interested in. So that mean that's a sign of depression.
Yes,
I concur on that one, because I know there was
Agreed.
times that I've done family sessions and with a couple, and the wife, mentioned those things, but however, as a man, he didn't want to explain what was going on because it was some job loss and stuff like that. So I think that you hit that spot on, Mark. And people, your circle should know when you're quiet, if you're not a quiet person. So it's usually the opposite of who you are.
Right.
Mhm.
Overworking, staying busy to stay away from getting into the feelings or the emotions, you know what I'm saying? Being distant, cold, or just flat, like somebody used to be lively and now they look like they doggone near on empty, you know what I'm saying? Something like that. Um, those are other ones too, because we're taught to hide those emotions. You know what
Hey, just
Right.
really quickly, Dean, and if I can just piggyback over that, another sign of depression is if you start seeing things that are addictive behaviors and everything like that. Because sometimes those can be signs of depression. So if the
Yes.
person was not into um, social relationships that are like those computer relationships, and they saw all of a sudden start going into those kind of situations, or they start getting into like the drugs and the alcohol, and I'm not talking about the social drinking, but I'm talking about like they start burying themselves in the
I'm
bottle
going
of
all the way in.
their relationships and stuff like that. That is a sure sign of depression if they start burying themselves in things that are a form of escape. I mean, even video games can be a form of escape. If they start burying themselves in those video games, then you might be one to check on that. I'm not saying that it was something that you have an interest in. I've got a friend that's very much into video games, but he does it in a safe and a healthy way and everything like that. But if he all of a sudden had not been into video games and then started burying himself into that, then I might be worried. Like my friend that I'm talking about, he's always been into video games. In fact, I might be more worried if he stopped playing the video games and everything like that, because he's so engaged in it. But there can be forms of escape. There can be forms of depression relief as well.
Yes, you are correct.
I think that's the hardest part of being a man. Being able
What?
to express your emotions in a constructive way that is not just blurting it out because you're looking for somebody's attention or sympathy when you get to that final, but being able to let it out before you even get to that point before you break. You know.
I have a question too, if I may.
Sure.
With men, I've just, with my observation, and I just want you to just answer that's true, that if someone has a person that can be argumentative only when their back is against the wall. This is just what everything could be cool, but then when someone asks a person a question, then the anger comes out of a man. Can you explain what's going on? Because I'm just observing. Everything is status quo. Then all of a sudden you ask something and the person flips. What is that? Because I don't
Depends
know
on
if
what
that
you're
could be
asking, because
depression or someone else. If you're
you could be asking
asking
trigger
something,
questions. Like it depends on what you're asking, because you could be asking.
You asked the right question to the wrong person.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. It could be a trigger question and everything like that.
So,
Like, I mean, like, I know for a fact that, somebody asked me the certain questions that you might not want to get into a whole conversations about and everything like that. I know some people that are, I'll just give an example. I know people that are divorced and everything like that. Now, if you ask them the questions about their divorce, then they might go off on you because they're not really wanting to go into a deep discussion about what caused that divorce, depending on what caused the divorce and all along those lines. So that might be a tricky question. If you got some people in their family, because I've got a couple of friends that got people in their family, like sons and kids that are have disabilities, whatever those disabilities are. And if you ask the question about that disability the wrong way, then they might get a little bit upset, and they might take that as a trigger question, to Dean's point, and everything like that. So they might be like, well, if you asking the question because you're trying to understand, that's one thing. So like, if somebody say a person is on the spectrum and you asking to try to understand, that's one thing. But if you asking it in a accusation kind of way, then yeah, they might get a little upset at you, and that might be a trigger.
okay.
I agree with
So,
that. Go ahead.
question.
Thank you.
Toya, I got a question. Are you talking about just like general stuff?
Well,
You
no,
may be
the
talking about
conversation could be
something.
like, it could be, because you're talking about when I'm trying to figure out if a man is depressed, because everything could be good. Everything's calm. Then all of a sudden you ask something, then the whole conversation goes to somewhere. So where I'm at, like, okay, I'm like, all right, I think I might have hit something, but I'm going to back up.
Yes.
And it changes the whole mood. So I'm just trying to assess if there's really some depression here, because how can it go from a
It,
happy face the other way? That doesn't make sense to
it
me.
it depends. So it could be that if that's with a lot of stuff that you have in a conversation about, and if they seem like that all the time and is always on edge, then there may be something else going on. Now, if it's
Okay.
just about a general conversation that all of a sudden they blow up, that might be that individual's refusal to compromise, that person's refusal to accept a different view, or they may just be damn wrong and they don't want to admit it.
Yeah, those are valid. Those are all valid points right there. Again, it's who you're speaking with, how you're looking at it, what may be said. We have to be careful because sometimes, depending on if they had trauma, you could have triggered a trigger word, as you stated. Could be something you have on. It could be your hair. It could be the way you tilted your head at that moment. Those things can trigger a person. Now, we may not think of it that way, but that's exactly what probably
And I
is
was
happening.
thinking that. Thank you, Dean, because I'm like, wow, so I got to the point of, for me, I don't want to react. I want to respond. And I think that, as you said, Dean, you just alluded before, you can get all like that. And that felt when some person gets jazzy with me, I'm like, why are we getting jazzy? Because all we're doing is talking. So we're talking, I'm trying to get to know you. And now the door opened a little bit and you close the door like, boom. Then it's like the whole conversation. So I was like, okay, I'll talk to you later. Because where I'm at right now, I'm in peace, tranquility. And I'm just trying to figure out, when you do your own inventory and a person may be depressed or going through something, I think I hold on too long out of the love, and I think that with self-preservation, we have to learn when to move and stay. And I think as women, sometimes we stay a little bit longer than we should.
Because y'all care. Because y'all care. Because y'all have that one thing that y'all have always had. It takes a while for us to get. So y'all have always been nurturers. You've always been protectors. You've always been caring. You've always been loving. Those are things that, as the world presents certain things to us, we don't keep that much. Unless you get somebody who you can love and who you can just be yourself. For us, it's a little different. I don't know, because I'm not a female, but I know as a black man, I walk outside the front door and it's a different thing that I'm enemy number one. I ain't even open my mouth. Now you start to talk and you run into those people. And as you start to talk and they realize that I'm not just some dumb nigga. I
think women, we dumb ourselves down sometimes. Someone told me I don't care about the degrees and everything. So that was like, okay,
the fear comes, the fear comes that much more. So now we have to deal with a lot of these weird things that unfortunately we were imported here. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But then we created everything here and everything got stolen. Now all of those elders and ancestors are passed on, but every time they see one of us, it could be a little boy, it could be a grown man, they are afraid. I don't know why, and I don't really care. We just got to think our way through a lot of things so that we can get back home to the people who we love and the people who we care about. And, you know, like, unfortunately, when old girl and everybody was like, vote for, never mind. Super predators is what they called us. And I was a teenager going into my 20s then. I got to be careful about everywhere I go, every time I say something. So when they say ICE is out here looking for the Hispanic, good, you ain't fucking with us. Thank you for finally leaving us the hell alone. But we still got to watch out for them.
To the struggle. That's what I said before. It's the struggle. Man. You just said it, right, Dr. Diamond? When you remove our history, you remove the struggle. Thank you for that. So we can say that. It makes sense. When we all go outside, we all have our family of origin, intergenerational stuff. And that's it. I don't want to go. That's a whole nother topic. But thank you.
Yeah, because we're moving into so many different topics, and I would love for us to stay on what we're talking about. Right? Because we're going to start losing people based off of what we're not giving them. So I want to give them the information that they need about men depression. Okay. So these other elements and compartments that are coming in, it is good information. However, I want to make sure we're sticking with what we're talking about today. And that is men in depression. So what I want to move into is the support, because you all had started alluding to support, but it was going a different way. So when we're talking about support and, you know, giving those practical supports to help that man show his emotion, how do we help that person feel safe, like that man to feel safe, that he can express himself to his family? What does that look like? Or family, friends? How does that look like, having a network around that person to help?
Well, I'm a boy mom. My son, basically his form of journaling is his music and his writing. Okay. That's what that is. So I'm a writer. We do that here. So when he's there, he got notebooks and stuff. Mom, I need a notebook. So that's what I do. So he didn't realize he was journaling, but the whole time he was journaling. So now I'm taking those journals and making some books for him. And he does his music. So that's one of the things that he didn't even know as a man. I was giving him tools along the way, but now he loves it. I said, well, now that I get it, back then, those things that I loved that were artsy were considered hobbies for me. So now he went to school, but I think that it's hard when you want to force that on a child. I know I just did the nursing thing, which now look where I'm at. I'm still in mental health, as I stated. However, there was a turn that I needed for my own personal healing. And I thank the grand architect for that, because now I didn't understand it. So that is a tool that he uses, the writing, church, you know, all those things. That's what we did in our house, and sports. So whenever he did that, okay, boxing, running, my son would be outside, say, come in with the lights going. Mom, we've got that big old light right there. Why I gotta come in? I'm gonna come in, but I'm going back outside with my friends. So you understand? So then I would go out on the balcony so that he can play with his friends. So those were the things, writing, sports, activities, is what he did to manage those feelings.
Okay. So what you say, Dean, about, you know, creating an emotional safety space for men?
What does support look like? Starts out with that non-judgmental conversation or listening, you know what I'm saying? Being able to allow a man to open up without being mocked or minimized, or someone trying to fix their problem. Being direct to him, you know what I'm saying? Not asking what's wrong with you. That's the wrong question. The question looks more like, you know, like what's been heavy on you, or what's been going on with you lately. Allow them to talk with you and to have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Private, one-on-one, and we're not talking in a public forum. I'm not talking in a group. You have us in a group, I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to be quiet the whole time. But if we able to have that one-on-one conversation, then you know what? It's better, because then I can say I feel sad, or I'm drained, I'm carrying a lot of stuff, but I'm talking to one person and that person is not going to judge me. That person is not going to tell me, well, you need to do this and this. Okay, I'm shutting back off because you're not listening to what I have to say. You know what I'm saying? Respect my time. I'm going to respect yours. But I also need you to be straight with me. And for some of us, we prefer the, I need you to be direct with me. Like, you need to go get this assistance. You need to go and do this. I might not really like it initially, but I know you're right. But if I respect you and I have respect for you and that love for you, I'm going to listen and hear what you're saying. For other people who just want to interject their 2 cents, I heard you, but that's going out the window faster than I went down the street. So when they're able to have that conversation with someone who they know, they love, they respect, and that person is honest with them to assist them, to help them, because sometimes we don't know where to go to. I need help, but where do I go? I don't know, man. I ain't gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna go ahead and light this blunt or smoke this or whatever, because I'm gonna forget about it for a moment, and then it comes back, and I got to deal with it again. So you know, when someone has someone in their corner that's able to say, okay, well, call this number right here, talk to this person. I don't want to talk to this person. You know what? If you need me to go with you, I'll go with you, because they got that trust with you because they already shared it with you. So now if you need to go with them, go with them. That you're helping them help them. You know what I'm saying? Me help you. It doesn't matter how long it takes, because eventually, yeah, my conversation might get a little stronger. Not in the beginning though, because I'm trying to figure out what's going on with you. Now, if you're not listening, I might have to put my foot on the gas just a little more. But if you're listening, then we won't have to do that. Now we can figure out what's next. Is there anything else that's bothering you? Anything else that you need help with or need to get through? So we can help you get through it, because nobody can do it by themselves.
So I liked a lot of what you're saying, but I'm going to challenge that thought too. When someone needs emotional safety, and we're talking about you as men, right? I'm going to highly suggest this to all of you and anyone that was listening to the opening. It is never upon the person that's listening to enforce or encourage, or other words, enforce them to talk to you. Because if they come to you and they may say, just being around you may be a help to them. You may not even realize that. And because they may not want to speak on it, but you being present does something for them, actually can be more an asset versus talking. And then when it does become that moment when they do express themselves, it may be over some food and just simply saying, hey man, what you think about that chicken? I thought that was good. And although it is something small like that, you're chuckling about it because it does happen that way. And then it falls into why that person may be feeling some kind of way. Hey, you ever felt rejected, this, that, and the other? Then it goes into that. Then that listening piece is, yes, very crucial, very important. But it's also that place where you can be vulnerable. That vulnerability, when it happens, it will naturally happen. It's like an organic thing that will happen. And when it does, that's not structured in any way. It just flows into a conversation. So I'm just saying that when we talk about how to begin to have these dialogues, it may not be you beginning that dialogue. It is actually the person, that may be, ready to start talking, because it's a readiness that has to happen for them to be vulnerable. And that's all I'm saying. So that's why I'm just challenging that.
Deep.
Not saying
deep. Because sometimes I could just be somewhere with the opposite sex. There's no talking. So then I'm sitting there. So, I'm a talker. So I'm like, what? And then I get told, you don't listen. So I said, well, how I don't listen if it's quiet? So thank you. So you're saying that the man just want to just be in your presence, and we can just sit there and don't say nothing for a long time.
Something was said to me a while back, and it took me a while to figure this out. So they said, you coming to such and such? And I'm like, no, I'm not really coming. I'm gonna kind of like stay at home. And they said, well, we need you to be there. And I'm like, for what reason? Like, I'm trying to mind my own business. Few times I'm not running around somewhere, and they said, well, your presence changes things. And I was like, okay. And I kind of like, I walked off and I didn't think about it.
Yeah, I don't understand that part. Because we're Leos, Dean. We're Leos. So maybe
what you have to do is you have to realize that the awkward silence, right? Sometimes
it's okay.
says more than what you can verbally say.
Correct.
And just being, and I started paying attention to places I go, right? And I walk in and you can feel that shift.
Well, no, you can feel.
Like,
I can feel. I'm just gonna say that I can feel energy.
But I don't ask a question. You just pay attention. And when you pay attention to certain people who may have been so talkative and loud and all, they start toning down. And they start, other people who have been generally quiet start to speak up. And it's not because I'm some magical Negro or nothing like that.
Right.
But the energy,
the dynamic change is what you like. The dynamic change what you like.
Right. And if you get up, they're like, where'd you go to? I'm like, man, I had to go to the bathroom. They're like, oh, well, you know what? You got to stay. You better put on the pins or something because it's peaceful when you're here. And I'm like,
right.
And for a while, like I said, it took me a while. I was like, I don't know how y'all figured that out, but what did I do? Now, man, shut up and just listen. Sometimes you got to pay attention, and you'll hear little comments from people, positive, negative, and you take what you need, and the rest of it you throw out. But sometimes it has to be an awkward silence for you to hear, or for someone to get enough courage. They may have every intention on telling you what was wrong with them and everything else. But if you start talking, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna join your conversation. I'm gonna join your conversation, and I'm not gonna talk about it. Give them that time, because it might take them still inside. They fighting. Do I really want to let this out to anybody? Because this is my problem. It's not yours. It's mine.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Jerome. That explains a lot, because in this particular setting, and just to help somebody else, sometime later on, I found out something else. But I was thinking to myself, I didn't say anything. But maybe the awkward it was wanted to be told to me some other time, but maybe because I talk. But so in other words, I need to be quiet so I can receive that. Because I'm like, why am I here? We ain't talking, or But thank you, big bro.
Come on now. Now he shut up and now he retreated. It's like a turtle. The turtle stick their head out. When he stuck his head out, he just didn't say anything. When you start snapping, guess what? He snapped back. Now the head is gone. It's just.
But see, the thing was, what I found out, I already kind of knew it, but that was just the confirmation. So the point is, on the side is, wow, you could have told me that. I wasn't going to be mad, but because I tried to assist with something, and it was like I was going to be right. So that's really what happened. But I didn't judge the person because I kind of had a feeling something happened. I was just waiting for it, but it took a couple conversations or time, and I didn't look at the person any less. So maybe that is a man.
For men, especially if we're going through something and we're dealing with something that we're trying to figure it out in our own head, and sometimes we try to answer our own questions and we can't. It gets like that.
But I feel as a woman, if I'm here around you, why would you have to wait all this time? I could have assisted. But again, so you're saying
as a man, listen to me.
Yep.
As a man, that is my problem. That is my situation. And yeah, thank you for wanting to help. But right now, I'm trying to make sense of it myself. So until I make any kind of little bit of sense to it that I can explain it to anybody, I ain't gonna talk about nothing right now. I'll let you know when I'm ready, though. Now, when they ready, be ready to listen. Because the second that you said, no, well, I gotta go do this. Okay, well, I thought you were there for me. Well, now you ain't. So let me go back.
But you made me wait. That's crazy. See, that's an argument. Thank you, Dr. Diamond, for that. Because
sometimes it takes that time.
It's on their time. So basically, the summary is it's on the man's time. That's what you're saying to women.
Well,
That's
actually,
No.
what actually is, and I'm going to move on from here because we're going to get to our last question so we can be done for the day. Actually, that's move on anyone's time. Anyone that's going through anything, man or woman, you're going to move on their time. You cannot tell someone, oh, it's time for you to divulge what's going on because I know something's wrong with you. No, we have to
I get
move on
that
that
part. I get that.
time. And with men, they are different from us. That's why, you know, this is surrounded about about them. What does that look like for them? And to express, how do they express things? What causes them not to move forward with getting certain help from certain people? That is a good example. If a man does come to you and then they're ready to open up and you happen to say, oh, well, I don't got the time right now. Yeah, they're not going to do it again. They may find someone else, or they and figure out, what do I do next? So this is where I'm going to allude to this next question that I would like to ask, and this will close up this segment. What roles does pride play in keeping men from seeking help? So now this will be our last question, and I'd like to hear from everyone about this because our listeners need to understand what happens. And then if it is a lot of men that are listening to this and those that encourage men to come back and listen to this, we need to be very genuine on why pride may interfere with them seeking help.
What's that old saying that comes from the religious circles and everything like that? At least I think that's where that thing comes
Don't
from.
let pride make
Which
you
is
stupid.
pride comes before the fall and everything like that. And definitely that's where I was going, because a lot of times we are too proud to admit that there are things going on in our lives and everything like that. So if you are too proud, that is where you run into a problem and everything like that. So definitely we all have issues. I don't know anybody that is perfect in this world. I mean, they say that the person that we are trying to emulate in a lot of our ways in life, which is Jesus Christ and everything like that, that he was a perfect individual and everything like that. But that was what a millennium ago and everything like that. But I don't know anybody, including those that we admire, like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, that didn't have some sort of problem in their lives, and even those in the literature circles, like definitely Conan Doyle, if you want to think about it, or even Langston Hughes and James Baldwin. They all had issues of some sort or another and everything like that. So definitely we got to recognize that we've got things going on. I mean, one of my favorite musicians in terms of classical jazz, I mean, that man had all kinds of issues, and that was Charles Mingus. I know that Dee knows a little bit about his history and all along those lines, but he was definitely committed a couple of times because he was going through a lot of things. And part of that was the drugs that he was dealing with, but it was also some of the emotions and psychological things that he was going through as well. So if you're going through some stuff, whether it is something that is what might seem minor to you or something that might be major to you, then I would try to get past that pride and to get that help that you might need.
Pride is a protection for some. They protect themselves from being either exposed, judged, mocked, or feeling vulnerable. Um, for any man that may be out there, I would say find the one person that you really, really trust. And when you are able to let them know what is bothering you or what is your fears, any whatever it may be, have that conversation with them. It's gonna go different from what you assume it may be. Because right now pride is in the way making you think that you're gonna be the bad person. Have that conversation, man, because there's nothing wrong with going to get that assistance, that help. And it takes time. You're gonna be scared as hell. I ain't gonna lie to you. You've been there. But once you do it and you start feeling better, and then you're able to have a conversation with somebody else to, each one reach one and teach one, and we can help each other. And you may find that there may be two or three brothers that been through the same thing you've been through, but all of y'all been standing in the room looking at each other the whole time, not realizing that you have more in common. than differences. And those brothers can be a support and a help to you too. So don't let pride get in the way, and don't let fear take you down. That's the thing I got to say.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. I'm just, as I sit here and listen to the two men on this call today, I think about, for me, I'm totally an anomaly because I've sat in men groups and I've heard them talk. I've heard them be vulnerable there for legal reasons. And sometimes they were innocent. And because of lack of resources, they had to take a plea.
Right.
So that's where I think that why I'm different when I date, because I know some things. I see what it is and I'm waiting for it. And when you love someone, you want them to be able to express it. I am not the enemy. I'm here to help you to grow as a Black man. My father wasn't there. He's in recovery. So for me, my father will be on my show. And Dean, I was thinking about that. I think I want to invite you on the Butterfly Room because I'm going to have a candid conversation with my father next month. Because, we're healing with one another and with all the losses and all of that. And I said to a family member, I said, the reason why my father and I are as tight as are, because he always gave me the truth. But I think that sometimes when you're parenting, when you don't tell someone, there's holes in your story. So when you find out the truth, and it's like, well, why you just, my cousin always says, why lie when the truth will do? People don't want to do that. So I think that's why sometimes I'm misunderstood. But I think Dean, my father, has expressed he was young, 18 when he had me. So he was a baby himself. So I like that now, years of him going through his recovery, his incarceration, I am the vessel, he's the vessel, and I'm the vessel that received him. And what you said today, the pride, when my dad cried in my mother's grave, it was more so me seeing my father at that point because his pride did not want to tell me why he couldn't be at my mother's second funeral. So that's when we started to heal, almost 2 years in the making. And I thank you today because now I think that the world needs to understand that sometimes we have to pivot back in order to heal. How they always say you got to take a step back to go forward. And, despite what folks may do, I'm in a very good space because now things have unfolded. And now, as you said, quiet, and me just being somewhere, maybe it's the thing. Sometimes I'm not running. I'm working. And, to say that, so maybe I will take an invitation for that because you said a lot today, Dean. And, how we say everything in alignment, it happens for a purpose. And I thank you, Dr. Diamond, for this because it was very befitting because I had a funeral. Supposed to start at 9:30, moved to 10:30. I said, no, that's a distraction of somebody. And I'm not going to do that. That's why I got on this call because I felt that it was needed. I could have just said, nah, but I thank you because I received something from all of y'all today. Because men and mental health is very important. And that was reason why some of those men that I counseled were in jail because the woman triggered them and they punched them and it was an assault. So maybe if there was some conversations, maybe they would not have led to incarceration. But then now sometimes incarceration can be the vessel for the good works of who created us. That someone needed that struggle. As we said here, history is a struggle. So I thank you all for this. And I thank you, Dr. Diamond, for the platform. And me, even though I'm late, I can't wait to get the opening because I came at the end. So that's also a line.
Yeah, exactly. So again, with this particular question, although it's our last question, but it doesn't mean we're not going to revisit this, everybody, those of you that are following us on the couch, because this is a very important dialogue to have about, mental health in general with men. So when I think about the word pride and you hear it, Dean said something about it. And, of course, Miss Toya said something about it as well. But remember that it's okay if you fear or have a fear of being vulnerable, check in with that and see why that fear is where it is. Because the fact of the matter is, something is wrong, but your fear of being vulnerable with someone else will stop you from going into therapy. And that's what I'm going to talk about right now. It's the therapy part. Because you can always have a friend. You can always have your family members that you can talk to, but does it do anything for you? At times, it's good to have a stranger in your life to talk to. This is where you can begin and challenge yourself to start looking at what does that look like to have a stranger in my life that would not know anything about me, and I'm the one giving them the information about myself. But then here's what happens is that a mirror begins to come up in front of you slowly, and you begin to look at yourself. And sometimes that fear comes in also because it's the reality of what you went through. But challenge yourself and go to that place. But when you go to that place, you take those baby steps. Don't run towards the mirror too fast because you can crack it. Go slow and start approaching yourself in a slow way. Because what I'm talking about is a reflection of you. Just because I'm the therapist and I'm the professional sitting in front of you, but it's you that know you. So all I'm doing is helping you approach yourself in that mirror when I'm getting you to move closer and closer by you breaking down that walls that you see as fear, shame, embarrassment, everything that you don't want to do to find out why you're depressed. Okay, so this is what I would say to anyone that's listening, but mostly for our men. Know that it's okay to face you, the person, even that little boy in you who's also in that mirror, because he's waiting for you. Because whatever has happened to you in the past, he's always been there waiting for you to save him, because no one saved him or told him you can have an emotion, you can cry, you can hurt, you can do all of these things that we talked about. But it's you to take yourself back and take that hand and say, hey, I'm here for you. That's you saving you. So I hope that makes sense what I'm saying, because, you know, it could be, I could go to those places where I am assessing it so deep that you have to hear it, hopefully in that deep way, so you can see it. And I try to keep it at layman's term so you can understand where I'm going with it. So I hope that helps anyone that is listening. And that's how I'm going to encourage you with this last question that we have for today. So of course, as always, I love to hear your closing remarks, everyone. And then we're going to end the show because we have been talking for about 2 hours. And I know everyone has things to do. So Dean, I would like to start with you with what are your closing remarks?
You know what?
I'm mute myself so we can hear each other. All
right. Well, you know what? I'm going to say for us as men, we take each day at a time, do the best that you can, and find those who are able to help you move forward. And those are the individuals, maybe 1, 2, or 3, whoever it is, to be the best you that you can be. Always remember that when you walk out of your front door, it's showtime and the world is your stage. And just make sure that people are not watching the rehearsal. So with that being said, it's the 6-man Dean Geronimo. Don't forget, Doc, next month is June, is a Men's Health Month. You know what I'm saying? So guys, jump back on. So you know what I mean? We'll talk about some more. Join the conversation. It's On the Couch with Dr. Diamond. I'm done.
Thank you, Dean. So, Miss Toya, please, your closing remarks, and also let us know what's happening on your show next Friday, so a lot of us can tune in there. And you know, I'll be showing up there because we kind of bounce off of each other's show. Everybody, this is how we do stuff. So I'm going to give you the floor on what your takeaway was, and then what's up next for the Butterfly Room.
Thank you so much, Dr. Diamond. I tell you, I love this movement, and I just know that we are definitely in alignment. And this has been in the making for a couple years. People don't know, you know, how this started and to continue. So next Friday at 8, we're going to be going into a topic. I won't have a guest. I want to get into closing out Mental Health Month, and we have Madam Butterfly should be coming so that she can execute. She has a learning lesson for us, and if not, we're going to have to do it because I've been waiting for her. But thank you for this time to speak, and just know that everything is in alignment since I had to be in a sense of grief attending a service. And I just know that, you know, sometimes for men, we as women, we love on them hard and we want them to see things. But, you know, as Dean Geronimo says, sometimes we just have to wait until we're there. They want to be open. And I'm glad I was able to catch a bit of that. But Dr. Diamond talked about Johari's window. Basically, when we look in the mirror, we know what we're looking at. Like today, I have a black jacket on. I can look and see the host, but there's always something inside of us that we don't know. And when you're working with anyone, especially paid professionals, when you go and you're working through Johari's window, there's going to be the unknown. And basically, Dr. Diamond with this topic is talking about what depression is. There's things that are out there for you, and you're not alone. And now, even to me, I always learn something, because we need to have the men in these circles when we talk. As women, we have feelings, we're emotions. They always say we're from a different planet. No, we're not. We have similar struggles. But the difference is, as women are more forthcoming, we will speak, because we're said we're soft and pink. But men are a little bit harder with their exterior. But you have to think, we had Barbies, they had trucks and GI Joes or whatever of the time. So that we have to be patient with that, so that we can get together and be able to come to a common good. But today, just remember, it's at your pace and you are not alone, and you can speak up. Just find that one person, as we stated, so that you can love on each other and work through that, so that there's no codependency. A good book that I would like to recommend is Codependent No More by Beatty. So now if you're doing books and things of that, because I know we will be having some discussions of different things, and we wish you well and enjoy as we close out Mental Health Awareness Month, and just do some tools. But we hope that you do it more than just this month. Many blessings to you. See you soon. Hopefully next Friday at 8 at the Butterfly Room.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Put you back in the wings in the studio. All right. So I am up on deck, everyone. I thank you all for, of course, joining us today, but I'm going to give some parting words to our men out there that are listening. Excuse my eyes from peering down, but there are some things that I jotted down that I wanted to talk about. So when we talk about men in depression, we're not just talking about sadness. We're talking about the silent weight men carry, the pressure to be strong, the expectations to hold everything together, and the fear that admitting pain makes them less of a man. Depression in men doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like irritability. Sometimes it looks like shutting down. Sometimes it looks like working nonstop, because slowing down means feeling something they don't have the language for. And the truth is, many men were never taught how to feel. They were taught how to survive. They were taught how to provide. They were taught how to protect, but they were not taught how to say, I'm hurting. So today I want to speak, or we did speak already, directly to men about how to allow yourself to express your feelings, how to talk about what struggles you're going through, asking for help when it's needed. Tap into your emotions. Understand that it's okay to tap into that emotion. Does not make you weak. It makes you human. And to women, partners, friends, family, when a man shuts down, it's not always rejection. So they're not rejecting you. Sometimes it's exhaustion. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's a lifetime of being told to be silent. So let's remember that. And understanding this conversation is not about blame. It's about understanding. It's about compassion. It's about creating space for men to be whole, not just strong. Because healing doesn't happen in silence. It happens in truth. So it's important that we remember we are here for our men. And as we show them what to do, they can also demonstrate that to our younger men that are coming up behind them, because it is very important to learn how to identify if there's something not right with you. Just think of it this way. If you are feeling sick, you acknowledge that and you go to the doctor. Do the same if you're feeling overly sad. If you're feeling like you don't feel like yourself, acknowledge why you're not feeling that way and go seek help. It is nothing wrong with going out to seek help. You feel vulnerable. You feel overly sad. You feel, you register that you are depressed. Even anger, if you feel like you're overly angry for no reason, that is also a key to going out and getting the help that you need. So again, you guys, I hope you all have taken something away from here on the couch with us today. And as I say always, remember, peace, love, and tranquility. Remember that. Always put yourself first. Take care of yourselves before you can take care of anyone else. So again, peace, love, and tranquility. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. And don't forget, the Butterfly Room is up next Friday at 8 o'clock. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of On the Couch. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it as enlightening and inspiring as I did. Remember, the stories and experiences we share here are just the beginning of a much larger journey. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, look for the notification on Facebook, and find us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us keep the conversation going and reach more listeners just like you. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep the dialogue alive. Peace, love, and tranquility. Take care, and we'll see you on the couch.